The night was too quiet. Not the silence of peace, but the kind of silence that squeezes your chest, heavy with the weight of something unseen. Chiamaka pressed her back against the cold wall of the mansion's corridor, her heart pounding like a drum. The antique clock above ticked steadily, but louder, louder, as if mocking her. The air smelled of candle wax, old wood, and something metallic, something that reminded her of blood. She wanted to scream, but her throat was dry. She wanted to run, but her legs trembled. Then she heard it again. The whispers. They called through the dark like snakes, low and broken, in a language she couldn't understand. Not Yoruba, not Igbo, not Hausa, not even English. It was a language that scraped against her bones, a language that did not belong in this world. And then the chain door at the end of the corridor shook violently, like something inside was fighting to break free. Chiamaka's stomach dropped. That was the very door Tunde had warned her never to touch, the door she had opened. Her trembling fingers clutched the locket around her neck, her late father's gift. Tears welled in her eyes. God, please, she whispered, breathless. Then came the footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. Tunde's voice slithered through the darkness, calm, steady, almost gentle. Chiamaka, I told you not to open it. The light flickered. For a heartbeat, she saw him at the end of the hall, his eyes glowing faintly. The whispers grew louder. The chains rattled harder. The air turned icy cold. And Chiamaka did the only thing she could think of. She ran. Just hours earlier, the world had been normal. The chaos of Lagos roared as usual hawkers chasing cars with gala and pure water, downfall drivers cursing at each other in the traffic, the smell of roasted corn and exhaust fumes mixing in the evening air. And in a tiny one-room apartment tucked behind a row of shops in Surulere, Chiamaka sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her salary envelope, 35,000 naira. Her whole month's sweat, neatly folded into a brown packet. It was barely enough to pay rent. It was barely enough to eat. Across the room, her mother, Mama Chiamaka, bent over a kerosene stove, stirring beans and yam with tired hands. The flame hissed weakly, the smell of smoke filling the room. Mama, Chiamaka's voice was small. How long we go day like this? Mama Chiamaka didn't look up. Her face was lined, her back bent from years of market work. She only stared, her lips pressed tight. My daughter, life no easy, but one day God will remember us. Chiamaka smiled faintly, but her heart was heavy. She wanted more, not for herself alone, but for her mother, who had carried the family alone since her father's death. Later that evening, she tied her scarf and hurried to her job at a boutique on Allen Avenue. It was a small place, filled with perfumes and gowns she could never afford, but she welcomed customers with a smile. That was when he came. It didn't look like he belonged there. Tall, sharp suit, wristwatch glinting under the fluorescent light. His presence filled the room like quiet thunder. He introduced himself with a voice deep and smooth. Tunde. He bought nothing more than a plain shirt, but his eyes lingered long, too long. You don't belong here, he told her. Chiamaka laughed nervously. And where exactly do I belong, sir? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Somewhere better. A girl like you deserves more than this. That night, as she walked home through the noisy street, Tunde's words wouldn't leave her. Somewhere better. The next day, he returned. Then again, and again, each time buying something small, unnecessary. Each time, his gaze heavy, his words deliberate. You work hard, he said one evening, but hard work doesn't always bring reward. Chiamaka chuckled nervously. That's life, sir. He studied her calmly. Life is what you make it. Sometimes doors only open if you dare to knock. Later that night, his car waited outside, black, silent, polished. Allow me to drop you off, he offered. She glanced at the dusty road ahead, then slowly nodded. Inside, the car smelled of leather and something faint she couldn't place. He drove without music, without chatter, only glancing at her now and then. Do you live alone? He asked. No, with my mother. He smiled faintly. Good. Family is important. When he dropped her, she muttered a thank you, eager to leave, but before she could close the door, he said it. Come have dinner with me tomorrow, my home. You deserve better than beans and yam. Her breath caught. How did he know? Before she could ask, the car rolled away, leaving her heart racing in the night. The following evening, Chiamaka stood frozen before the gate of a mansion in Lekki. Her palms were sweaty. Her heart beat in her throat. The building before her was massive, stretching upward with white pillars and glass windows that caught the fading sun. The gate opened without a sound. No security guard, no backing dog, just silence. Inside, the compound gleamed with spotless tiles. The air smelled faintly of roses and something older, heavier, like wood soaked in time. The front door opened, and Tunde appeared, dressed in white. His smile was warm, but his eyes remained calm, too calm. Welcome, Chiamaka, he said softly. She stepped in, clutching her handbag tight. The house was grand marble floors, chandeliers glittering like ice, walls lined with paintings. But the paintings were wrong. Each one was of faceless figures, painted in dark shades, no family photos, no signs of a home lived in. Sit, he gestured toward the dining table. Dinner was already waiting, steaming jollof rice, grilled chicken, plantain, and wine poured into crystal glasses. Chamaka sat, trying to smile. This is too much. Nothing is too much for someone who deserves more, Tunde replied, his gaze steady. They ate. He asked questions about her childhood, her mother, her dreams. He listened carefully, nodding, his expression never breaking. But the silence between questions stretched too long. The quiet pressed against her ears until she spoke just to feel it. Halfway through dinner, she excused herself to find the bathroom. The corridor was long, lined with closed doors. She passed one, then another, until her steps slowed. At the far end was a door unlike the others, thick wood, bolted, bound with iron chains. She frowned. Why chain a door inside your own home? And then she heard it, a whisper. So faint, she thought she imagined it. A woman's voice, hoarse and broken. Please. Her skin prickled. She leaned closer, straining her ear. Please, help me. Chiamaka's stomach turned. Her hand inched toward the chain. Chiamaka. She spun around, heart leaping. Tunde stood behind her. His smile was gone, his eyes sharp and cold. That door is not for you, he said flatly. Her voice trembled. I wasn't going to open it. He stepped closer, his calm voice lower, heavier. Good. Because if you do, you may never walk out of this house again. The air seemed to thicken. His words clung to her skin. He smiled suddenly, as if nothing had happened. Come, dessert is waiting. But as he led her away, her eyes lingered on the chain door, and the faint whisper echoed once more. Chiamaka promised herself she would never return. The mansion was too cold, too quiet. The chain door haunted her dreams, but poverty is louder than fear. 2 days later, Tunde appeared at the boutique again, this time with a shopping bag. Inside was a brand new phone. For you, he said simply. She pushed it back, shaking her head. No, sir, I can't accept this. You can, he replied calmly, because you deserve it. and because it makes me happy to see you smile. Her boss eyed her suspiciously, but Chiamaka didn't care. That evening, she found herself in his car again, heading back to the mansion. The visits became frequent. Sometimes he would sit with her in silence, sipping wine, watching. Other times he would ask about her mother, her father, her life. His calmness, once unsettling, began to feel almost protective. And dangerously, she began to relax. Until one night, passing the corridor again, she heard it clearer. Not whispers, cries. A woman's voice, raw and desperate. Help me. Chiamaka froze. Her breath came fast. Before she could move, Tunde appeared again. This time, his voice was sharper. You heard nothing. Her lips trembled, but there's someone, nothing. His tone cut through her words. His eyes burned cold. She nodded quickly, her throat dry, but the voice stayed with her long after she left the mansion. The rain fell heavy that night. It was a kind of rain that swallowed Lagos whole. Streets flooding, generators humming, thunder rattling the windows. Chiamaka sat in the boutique earlier that day, staring at her cracked shoes, her mind restless. Tunde's words replayed in her head. Life is what you make it. Sometimes, doors only open if you dare to knock. And the whispers from the chain door echoed louder than the storm. That evening, when his car arrived again, she did not resist. The mansion felt colder this time. The generator hummed faintly, lights flickering. Shadows stretched across the walls, long and unnatural. Sunday served dinner as usual, speaking calmly, but Chiamaka barely touched her food. Her eyes kept drifting toward the corridor. The whispers wouldn't stop. Louder now, clearer. Help me, please. Her hands shook. She clutched a fork, her throat dry. Tunde noticed. His calm gaze lingered too long. Are you afraid, Chiamaka? He asked softly. She forced a laugh. No, why would I be? He smiled faintly, but his eyes knew. Later, when he stepped out to take a call, she rose. Her feet carried her down the long corridor, heart pounding louder with every step. The chain door loomed at the end. The wood looked darker than before, swollen with age, the chains rusted but strong. The whispers grew desperate. Please, don't leave me here. Her hands trembled as she touched the cold metal. Hello? She whispered. The voice broke into sobs. Please, open. He keeps me here. He feeds me. Chiamaka's breath hitched. Feeds you? What do you mean? Open! The voice screamed suddenly, making her stagger back. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She should run. She should leave. But something inside her curiosity, pity, defiance pushed her forward. Her fingers found the lock. Shockingly, it wasn't sealed. With a slow, shivering pull, the chain slipped free. The door creaked open, and the darkness inside exhaled. The smell hit first. Rot, decay, blood soaked into wood. Chiamaka gagged, covering her mouth. Then she saw her, a woman, thin, skeletal, chained to the wall. Her skin hung loose, her eyes hollow, her lips cracked. She looked half dead, half alive. But when she spoke, her voice was sharp and filled with fury. You fool! Chiamaka froze. The woman's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Her mouth curled into something between a smile and a snarl. You've set me free. The chains clattered as they snapped open on their own. Chamaka screamed and stumbled back. The woman stepped forward, her form shifting, twisting her body, stretching unnaturally, her face distorting into something inhuman. Her voice was no longer a whisper, but a roar. You shouldn't have opened the door. The corridor shook. Lights flickered violently. And then, behind her, came the calm, steady voice. Chiamaka, she turned. Tunde stood there, but his face had changed. His eyes glowed red, faint but burning. His calmness was gone. He didn't look human anymore. I warned you, he said softly. The creature lunged from the darkness, and the mansion erupted in chaos. The mansion shook. The chained woman was no longer a woman. Her limbs stretched like shadows, her hair whipped in the air, her mouth tearing open wider than humanly possible. The scream that poured out rattled the walls, shaking the chandelier until glass shattered across the marble floor. Chiamaka screamed and ran. Her slippers slapped against the tiles as she stumbled through the corridor, heart hammering like a war drum. Behind her, claws scraped the walls, leaving deep gashes. The whispers had become wails, dozens of voices, crying, laughing, hissing in languages she couldn't understand. She darted into the living room, knocking over a vase, the wine glasses from dinner crashing to the floor. Chiamaka. Tunde's voice followed her, calm, steady, even in the chaos. You cannot run. The house has already swallowed you. The front door. Her eyes locked on it. She sprinted, throwing herself at the handle, only for the knob to twist but refused to open. The wood pulsed under her palms like flesh. She banged with both fists, tears spilling. Somebody help me, please. Lightning flashed outside the windows, but no sound of cars, no rain against glass. The world beyond looked wrong, empty. Where do you think you are? Tunde's voice slithered behind her. She turned. He was standing calmly, hands behind his back, his glowing eyes steady. Behind him, the creature half woman, half shadow slithered across the ceiling like a spider. This house is not in Lagos anymore, he said. It is where I bring those who knock on doors they should never touch. Chiamaka sobbed, clutching the silver locket around her neck. Her father's, the only thing she had left of him. God, Daddy, please, she whispered. For a moment, the creature hissed and recoiled, as if the locket's light stung its skin. Tunde's calm faltered, his voice sharper. Put that down. Her hands trembled, but she held it higher. No. The locket grew warm against her palm, glowing faintly in the darkness. Suddenly, memories of her father's prayers filled her mind, the mornings he would kneel by the bedside, whispering words she didn't understand as a child. Now those words spilled from her lips, shaky but desperate. In the name of Jesus, I shall not die, but live. The creature shrieked, twisting violently, smoke pouring from its skin. Tunde staggered, fury flashing in his eyes. Stop! The mansion shook. The chained woman was gone. No, not gone. Transformed. Her body stretched and cracked, each bone snapping like dry wood as her arms bent into claws. Her mouth tore wider, splitting her face, eyes burning with a hunger that had no end. She crawled along the ceiling like a spider, shrieking, her voice layered with dozens of others' children crying, women wailing, men groaning in agony. Chiamaka screamed and bolted down the corridor. Her slippers slapped against the polished tiles, but the house felt alive beneath her feet, the marble floor rippling like water. She stumbled, barely catching herself as paintings along the walls twisted, the faceless figures now turning, their eyeless heads following her every move. Behind her, claws scraped the wall. Sparks flew as the creature screeched, crawling fast. Chiamaka. Tunde's voice followed her, steady, calm, unhurried. You cannot run from me. She darted through a doorway into a grand sitting room. Chandeliers swayed violently overhead, the crystals clattering like bones. She ran to another door, flung it open, only to find herself back in the corridor of the chain door. Her stomach dropped. She turned, heart pounding, and opened another. Same corridor, another door, same corridor. The house was folding on itself, trapping her in an endless loop. No, 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 she whispered. tears burning her eyes. From the shadows, the creature lunged. Its claws missed her by inches, shredding the wall beside her. She stumbled back, clutching her father's locket. Daddy, please, she cried, the silver glowing faintly in her hands. The creature hissed, its face twisting, recoiling from the light. For a moment, it shrank back. Then she saw him, her father, standing at the end of the corridor, smiling gently, his familiar voice soft. Chiamaka, my daughter, come. Her breath caught. Daddy? She staggered forward, reaching for him until the glow of a locket fled, and his face melted away. The illusion cracked, revealing the creature's grinning maw. It lunged. Chiamaka screamed and threw herself sideways, tumbling into another room. The room was filled with mirrors, dozens of them, reflecting her terrified face back at her. But the reflections moved on their own, some crying, some laughing, some whispering, all mocking. Chiamaka, Chiamaka, you can't run. Her chest heaved as she sprinted forward, shattering the glass with her arms. Shards cut into her skin, but she didn't stop. Behind her, the mirrors exploded as the creature burst through, crawling after her, its claws clicking like knives. The corridor stretched again. She ran blindly, her lungs burning, the whispers swelling until they were deafening. Then she saw it. At the far end of the hall, a crack of light, bright, warm, real. The front door. Her heart leapt. She sprinted, every step heavy as if the house itself was holding her back. The floor turned sticky, sucking at her slippers, pulling her down. She kicked them off, running barefoot, blood smearing behind her. The creature shrieked, closing in. She felt its claws graze her back, tearing her blouse, burning her skin. Tunde's voice boomed over the chaos, no longer calm but thunderous, shaking the very walls. You will never leave me, Chiamaka. She clutched the glowing locket, screaming through her tears. In the name of Jesus, I shall not die, but live. The door burst open, flooding the hall with blinding light. Chiamaka dove forward, and the world went white. She landed hard on muddy ground. Rain splashed across her skin. The honk of downfall buses, the shout of hawkers, the chaos of Lagos returned all at once. She gasped, trembling, her body drenched, barefoot, bloodied but alive. The mansion was gone. Behind her was only an empty street, wet from the rain. She sobbed, clutching the locket to her chest, whispering, Thank you, God. Thank you. Weeks passed. Life struggled on. The beans still stretched thin. The rent still hung over their heads, but they were alive. That was enough. Until one night, a knock on the door. Soft, gentle, familiar. Chiamaka froze, her spoon of gari halfway to her mouth. Mama Chiamaka frowned. Who is knocking at this hour? The knock came again. Chiamaka's blood ran cold. She knew that rhythm. She knew it too well. Her mother stood to open the door, but Chiamaka leapt up, grabbing her arm. No, don't. But it was too late. The door creaked open, and there he was, Tunde, smiling, calm, his white suit spotless. Good evening, Mama, he said warmly, as though nothing had happened. May I come in?